So I've actually created my own martial arts with my friend. It's not any particular style, but it's more like an approach to how you do martial arts, a methodology. So really, what we've discovered with this that you can practically do any martial arts, because we've like kind of realized that any real application of like effective martial arts comes down to this understanding, and that understanding is that there's two phases of how you move your body and then do your technique to affect someone. The first phase is we call it the fulcrum phase, where your body is acting as a fulcrum in like a lever seesaw system, right? So it would just be like you are adjusting your fulcrum in relation to your target, and then once you establish that position, then you can do your lever action, which is your your technique, whether that be some kind of punch or a kick, takedown, anything you can think of in martial arts. And then how you can improve doing that, improve being the fulcrum and then using your lever, that's where the practice comes in, and that's where you'd have to put more time into actually learning. It's not so much our homegrown technique as more it's like a realization we had, because not all how to say, I guess you could say like it's always been there. This has always been what made techniques work, but it's like most training and like martial arts schools and stuff and combat, like all this kind of stuff, they're not aware of this, and they don't like specify like this is what you need to do to make it work. They often think like it's the technique itself that works without thinking about why that technique works. A good example would be like if you've ever seen judo. In judo, a lot of their techniques on like doing takedowns and stuff, they'll tell you like, oh, you need to put your hip in this position, you need to put your hip closer, you need to put your arms here, you need to turn your body around this way, and they just think that's part of the technique to do the takedown or whatever, like pull them over your shoulder. But the reason why that explanation works is because what you're actually doing is you're adjusting your fulcrum. You are the fulcrum, so you're adjusting your position. And even not just takedowns, but even punches and kicks, all this relies on you being able to adjust and manipulate your position and fulcrum. It's kind of used interchangeably. I hope that kind of cleared up an explanation. If you want, I can actually find a video real quick of Mike Tyson kind of doing something. There's this very, I think it's probably a famous video of him like knocking out someone. It is also a very physical thing, obviously, so there's only so much like you can realize just from like a vocal explanation. It's quite, I would say it's quite easy to feel it out once, like if you can actually test it on someone. But I can understand that like people who've never done martial arts before, this would be like, I sort of get it, but I don't really know what you're talking about. But we think that in our practice, like I've taught like people who've never learned martial arts before, if we approach martial arts in this understanding and manner, it only takes like a week, maybe a month at most, for just like anyone who's never done martial arts before to take someone down, because it no longer becomes something about like weight differences or strengths and stuff like this, but more of a, oh, I just know that this is the physical, like the laws of physics is helping me in this situation. And like a lot of like people who like do like sports comment stuff would be like, no, weight is the most important thing. And I'm not saying that's not important, Your size will definitely open up options for what you can do, but you know, if you understand this, it becomes less of a limitation, if you will. Real quick, let me see if I can get that video up. And I'll try and see if I can explain it just a little bit. Mike Tyson has this very like raw athleticism to him. I don't think he actually is aware of the whole like, you know, thing I'm talking about, awareness of like adjusting your fulcrum and all this. But here, that punch right there, that last one, he has his body set. Like his body's kind of like set in position. So now this is his fulcrum. He's set up, so his arm can it's like loose but strong. Your shoulders are loose, but they're strong. And he just swings very clearly. But the opposite of this, right here, this one is not it. This one, he's kind of throwing his body with his arm. He's not setting up that fulcrum, and he's just throwing his body in there. Which again, if you're big and strong, it's going to hurt. Don't get me wrong. But his opponent's also, you know, this is boxing, so they're around the same weight class. He's also pretty big, and he's obviously strong, so he kind of just blocks it. He kind of shrugs that off. But same thing with the punch actually knocked him out. That's the same thing. He had his fulcrum set up, and his right swing here is very loose. His shoulder's loose. His body's it's dynamic, so he's moving. He's not like literally stationaring himself, but he just swings and punch, as opposed to that punch. I'm not sure how clearly that went through on the stream. But feel free to ask questions and I'll try to clear anything up. Think of it as like there's two steps you need to take in order to have like clean execution of any technique. Hopefully that was a pretty fun explanation. It might not be an analogy that works with everyone, but the analogy I do often use is that if we are to imagine, let me see if I can grab something. We're gonna imagine that your body as the fulcrum in the first phase, and then your technique, your arms or kick or whatever as the lever. Then if you're trying to move something that's say here of the lever, it would be difficult to like try and push the lever in while also adjusting your fulcrum. Like it just kind of doesn't work that way. But if you set the fulcrum down first, you can move it freely as close to the object as you want. And then once you set down that fulcrum, you can then put in your lever and wedge it. But in the same way, if you position your fulcrum poorly, like the object's over here, and your lever and seesaw kind of looks like this, then you would need a lot of force in order to move that object. Which is the concept of like why techniques and styles become formed. Because there are people who practice martial arts are like, oh well, I want to make this work. Like if my target's over there, I want to take him down with my arms like this. How would I accomplish that? So phase one is you are the fulcrum, you're setting the fulcrum, and then phase two is your arms and technique become the lever. It is a funny idea that I'm trying to teach martial arts using explanations rather than like, oh, just come to my school, which I mean in the future that would be awesome, but it takes time to get there.